Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm really excited to be with you. My name is Jean Fleming. I'm with PASA, the Pan-African Sanctuary Alliance. And together with Dorothy, we're going to share a little bit about the role of sanctuaries in the protection and preservation of Africa's amazing primates. So PASA is, I like to start with this this statement. I'll give you a moment to just read it over there. And I think it's an important level set on the issue of and what brings us together in our love of the animals, and also our desire to make sure that they have livelihood and homes and can survive with us into the next century. We're in a really critical moment, and as Johan said, Dr. Rayfish and Iris Ho will be talking over the next couple of weeks more in depth about the threats to Africa's primates. But I think it's just really important for us to be reminded that extinction really is a possibility in our lifetimes. We don't think it's an option, and that's of course why PASA has joined together. But I think it's important for us to think about that as a real distinct possibility. So PASA is an alliance of sanctuaries. We were formed by sanctuary members back in the year 2000. Many who had started sanctuaries, particularly around the care for chimpanzees who were coming in out of the bushmeat trade and the other kinds of illegal hunting, they realized they had many common interests and common challenges, and that by talking to each other, working together, they might be able to find better solutions. So that is how PASA was born. 22 years later now, we have 23 members across 13 different countries in Africa. This gives you a sense of where everyone is. And of the 23 members that we have, they care for a total, in the last year, every year we do a census report and we ask them to share how many animals they're looking after. So this number might be a little bit low based on what people are currently doing, but as of our last census, the total group, all 23 sanctuaries together, were caring for 3,226 different animals. Most of which are primates, but almost 200 of which are not primates. Some of those non-primates, some of our members have a special practice around African gray parrots that are quite endangered and highly trafficked animals, pangolins, other creatures that need care and refuge as well. But most of the members are primarily looking after primates. And of the different kinds of primates, chimpanzees, of course, take up the majority of it, but we have the world's only bonobo sanctuary, Lolo Ya Bonobo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is a member of the alliance. Some of our members look after drills and mandrills. We have members that focus more on different monkey species. So the whole kind of range of African primates is represented in our membership, and we're incredibly proud of the work they do to rescue animals and partner with law enforcement and be a critical piece of the puzzle in how do we create conserved space and protect animals for the long haul. So just kind of a few stats to talk about the impact of our members. Over our 23 years, they've rescued and cared for more than 4,000 animals in total. On an annual basis, they provide employment to people in their communities. Over 800 people are employed through PASA members. Together, all of them return over $6 million to the communities. And this is coming out of 2 years of the pandemic, so you can imagine how much work it's been to maintain that. And together they have helped to preserve over 150,000 acres of habitat around their sanctuaries. So they're an incredible asset. They bring decades of experience in their communities. They understand the issues. They understand the wildlife trade, the trafficking routes. And as we get into this critical moment, as I mentioned, where things could really turn one way or the other. The role of sanctuaries in preserving and protecting animals and really having a seat at the table becomes critical because of that incredible knowledge and the relationships that they bring to the table. So I'm going to stop talking now and hand it over to Dorothy, who is going to share more deeply her own story of how she came into this work and what the work of sanctuaries really looks like. So without further ado, let me give it over to Dorothy.
Thank you, Jane. Good afternoon, everyone. Dorothy Basemera is my name, and I work for Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary, where I started as an intern, then volunteered, and I'm currently the Guest Relations and Partnership Officer. I'll take you through what we do. As earlier said, Ngamba Island is one of the member sanctuaries where PASA does operate. Okay, and I'll just take you through what our mission is as Chimpanzee Trust. It's to sustainably conserve chimpanzees in their natural habitats and also provide optimum captive care to those that can survive in the wild. And these are the chimps that we have at the sanctuary. And we have a couple of objectives as Ngamba Island. One is to assist in the protection and conservation of wild chimpanzee populations and their habitats through conservation activities. And this is derived from the different threats that chimpanzees have all over the world. So in our capacity, we're trying as much as possible to make sure that the chimps who are in captivity have a great home, and even the few remaining in the wild, they are also protected. And we do this through our conservation education, which mainly focuses on promoting the understanding and awareness of chimpanzee wildlife and conservation. And this is done through the different school outreaches and community outreaches. And also, we try as much as possible to build national and international partnerships on conservation of chimpanzees and environmental conservation. We understand as an entity, we can't do so much without involving other people in the sector. And these chimpanzees have various threats. As you can see, one of the main threat to the chimpanzees, it's a human-wildlife conflict. And this is caused by we individuals, we encroach on their habitats and they intend to be homeless. And also in some other parts of Africa, these chimps are taken as bushmeat. Some people eat the chimps, and others, they are taken as a pet. So pet trade is also one of the key threats to the chimps. When they are very little, they look attractive, but they're wild animals. They can't be tempted. And others are the human activities, deforestation, and as earlier said, encroaching on their habitats, which is normally the forests. Most forests are cut down and they end up being homeless. Others are killed, and others, that's how they end up being taken to the sanctuary. So when the chimpanzees come to the sanctuary, we have over 1,000 orphaned chimpanzees cared within the 23 sanctuaries throughout Africa. And when they arrive, they are malnourished. Others have gone through physical trauma, but at the sanctuary, they are given a new hope. And how is that done? We do give them a couple of enrichments just to imitate what would have happened while they're in the world. We have the natural environment, the structure, and the social. The natural environment, like the chimps at the sanctuary, In the morning, they are released to go into the forest, and they will come back later in the evening in the indoor. So while in the forest, they have a couple of food, and it is mainly the species. And at the sanctuary, we provide 80% of the food, and then 20% is what they get from the forest. And as Ali said, in the evenings, the chimps at the sanctuary return, and they're given some enrichment. They are fed, they're given some porridge, and also in their sleeping facility, we have the hammocks, whereby every day they nest. We all know that chimps in the wild, every day they make new nests. So what we do at the sanctuary is every day, each chimp is given hay, just to imitate their wild setting. And social bit, you can see chimps are friendly, and we may know that we do share 98.7% of our DNA. So most of the characters in human, they're easily portrayed in the chimps. So they do social bonding, they groom each other while in the forest. And when the new arrivals are brought at the sanctuary, to introduce them, we do have forest walks, and this is strictly done between the caregivers and the new chimpanzees. And why is this done? It is simply to make them familiarize with the new environment and blend into the other community. Other than just the sanctuary, we do wild intervention. And since there is a lot of human-wildlife conflict, it is our mandate as Chimpanzee Trust to always intervene. You'll find some chimps captured in the snares or man traps, or other chimps being beaten, they may have fought, and there are also other incidences whereby the chimps attack people. So we do intervene to help. We have a veterinary unit which helps in doing all that. Then what sanctuaries offer? One, I already said we try as much as possible to give them a new home. So it is like a rescue. You can see on arrival, they're not happy, but while staying at the sanctuary, they are given a new home, and that is the forest where they spend much of the time. They only appear at the different feeding times, which is at 8, 11, 2:30, and then at 6, which is normally indoors. And other than that, we make sure that their welfare is maintained. They have a clean facility. They are fed on time whenever. And then that's a feeding. And then we do have veterinary care. Annually, all our chimps go through an annual health check, which helps us to know how their health is. And we also have ecotourism. We attract tourists, and before COVID, we used to have about 3,000 to 4,000 visitors per year, but right now it's a reduced number. But the visitors are given an opportunity to view the chimps during the different times, and they can also choose to spend an overnight. We have cottages at the sanctuary. And we try as much as possible to be eco-friendly. The location of Ngamba, it's on an island, as earlier said, so we use solar, hot water, and electricity. And then we have a proper waste management policy whereby we separate composite, non-biodegradable, they are separated. And what is it like to work at the sanctuary? One, it's interesting because you have a schedule that you follow. It's rewarding, encouraging, and always being with our closest relatives. It gives you a sense of belonging. And what is done to save the chimps? We do environmental education, and we we encourage students to come to the sanctuary. They are taught. We believe by teaching the younger generation, we are able to save for the future. We carry out community outreaches, sensitizing them about the importance of having wildlife, and also school outreaches. We encourage them to come to the sanctuary, those who can, but we also carry out school and community outreaches in Western Uganda, where we operate as well. And we also have radio sensitization programs, and this is through the radio drama, which is always aired out in the different radio stations in Western Uganda. And for our neighboring islands, we involve local communities because we believe for them to appreciate the value of having chimpanzees, it needs to be a win-win situation. So we teach them handcrafts, and we also buy from them. And what is the goal achieved? Our overall goal is to have the chimps in normal social structures and exhibiting their normal behaviors. And as we had seen, the chimps come to the sanctuary not happy, but at the end of the day, you're able to see all these smiling faces trying to demonstrate their natural behaviors. What can we do to help is learn more about the chimpanzees and educate the public through sensitization. It's the only way we can save the few chimpanzees remaining. Talk to your peers about saving the chimps, and also not purchasing wood materials. And what we've done in areas where we operate in Western Uganda, we've taught them better ways of conserving. If you're to use about 10 loads, you'd use one by having an energy saving stove. And also not only depending on deforestation, but other means. And also, if you visit the sanctuary, you'll get to understand what it takes to conserve the chimps and to be there for them. You can as well donate towards the endowment fund, which will look at the long-term sustainability of the sanctuary. These chimps can't live without being given healthcare, being fed, and all this requires funds. And you can visit our website to learn more about us. Thank you.
So everybody, I would like to welcome you to ask questions. You are most welcome to participate or comment. Perhaps tell us your story about your work with primates, your involvement with sanctuaries. If you are from a sanctuary, please tell us where you are from, and you're welcome to use the reaction tools at the bottom of the screen, or you can write in the chat, whichever you are most comfortable with. If I may, if I would just start the questions and answers with a question, and I hope it's not an unfair question. Dorothy, you mentioned the that your goal is to have the chimps display normal behavior. So how difficult is it to achieve this, considering that they now have interaction with humans? And how do you handle that? How do you sort of orchestrate that, considering that they are living partially in an unnatural environment? And how successful are you in that?
Thank you, Joanne. What we do at the sanctuary, yes, they have an interaction with the humans only when they are still young. There is a closer interaction, but when they grow old, they are left to roam in the forest, and they are even left to spend the night in the holding facility. So we try as much as possible, as I had earlier said, in the holding facility, we want to imitate the natural being. We give them hay so that they are able to nest, just like how it would be done in the wild. And other than giving them hay, the chimps are fond of foraging, so we get natural trees for them to have. And the mere fact that they have over 95 acres of land to spend much of the day with, I believe we are able to achieve that, to have them live normally. There is really minimal interaction with the humans. So the chimps are not tempted. So they are still in their wild setting, though in captivity.
Great, thanks for that answer. I see Fatsuma raised her hand and would like to ask a question. Please unmute and you're welcome to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you once again, Kruger, for your moderating this session. And thank you, Jane and Dorothy, for your presentation. I was doing some work with my postgraduate students when the hour for the share screen started. So I told them we are joining this call to listen. So after listening to Dorothy's presentation, I asked them if they have a question. So one of them said he has a question. So I said, fine, I will raise my hand and ask him to ask his questions. I believe that is allowed. So
Absolutely.
Over to him. He's one of my postgraduate students. Michael is his name. Introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dorothy. My name is Michael, and I have a question. I have a friend. He owns a wildlife sanctuary here in Lagos, Nigeria. It's a very little, it's not much, like a mini sanctuary in-house. So I know he has plans of trying to move. I've had discussions with him when I visit, and he wants to move maybe to a much bigger site or a bigger land or something like that. So I want to ask if it's possible for him to, are there plans for PASA to maybe encourage young conservationists who feel like they want to really invest in wildlife sanctuaries in developing cities like Lagos here, because we are losing so much of our biodiversity to land development and urbanization. So is there any form of help that we can get from you all, like the professionals and support to help him get that done? Thank you very much.
I wonder if the question is clear, really.
Yes, we could hear him clearly. We can hear both of you. Thank you for the question. It's a great question.
Okay. Thank you.
Truly, it is a great question and really important work that your friend is trying to take on. So we really commend him for that. It's as I'm sure he knows, and anyone on the call who's also in the sanctuary world knows that it is difficult to start a sanctuary and also difficult to keep it going. So it's that's partly why PASA exists, is to create a network of expertise that your friend could start to create relationships that will help him find resources and just get better at what he's trying to do. My practical suggestion, I will put it into the chat, is, and you could share this with him, is that he could contact us directly and we could see what we could do to help him get oriented there. We don't currently have a member in Nigeria. Actually, I take that back. That's not correct. We do have one member there. So there may be an opportunity for him to at least create relationship and learn from them. And who knows, with one conversation, many things can start. So we would be happy to start to facilitate that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jane.
Of course.
Thank you. Bye.
Jean, at that note, may I ask, is there a membership application that people normally go through? How does the relationship between PASA start and a sanctuary?
Yes, it's a great question. And so each sanctuary that is part of the Alliance goes through an accreditation process. And that can take, for ones that have been running for many years, they will go through it relatively quickly, and that might mean a year's worth of time. For a newer one, such as we're just hearing about there in Nigeria, that might take a little bit longer. the Alliance is very committed to trying to support the creation of sanctuaries. They're all independently owned and operated, so PASA does not, it is in no way running them as a network, but we do provide the accreditation, and part of what the Alliance brings is, for instance, just now has wrapped up a veterinary workshop in Kenya that brought vets from many different sanctuaries. And I think I see Dr. Rakundo on the call. I'm pretty sure that he was there. He may want to speak to that. So bringing people together so that they can learn from each other, share best practices. And I think the work is so intense, and Dorothy can certainly speak to that, that having a moment to catch your breath and learn from other people is a huge benefit. But the accreditation process, I will get the link, and we have an operations manual that's available on our website at pasa.org that will show you everything that's expected of a member sanctuary. And as I say, we try to help sanctuaries step into it. It takes a little while sometimes. It's, as I say, it's hard work, it's expensive work, and it's it's very needed. Every place where there is a sanctuary, it's a chance for laws to suddenly be enforced against trafficking, against poaching, that protect the wildlife. When we don't have sanctuaries and there's no place to place a wild animal, then it becomes easier maybe not to enforce those laws. So they generate a lot of good beyond simply the care for the animals, although of course that is the heart of the mission for each member.
Sure. Thanks for that answer. I see there's a new question in the chat. We've got from Caroline. Hello and thank you. There goes my question. Hello and thank you very much for your presentation, Dorothy. I'm Caroline, and I am currently writing my PhD about animal sanctuaries in Africa and Asia. My question would be, how important is tourism for running your sanctuary?
Thank you, Caroline. And as I had earlier said, we depend so much on donations and then also tourism. Before the pandemic, tourism would contribute over 60% towards our operational budget. And how is this tourism done? One, we allow guests to come to the sanctuary for either a day trip, overnight, and we also have other different programs where we generate funds. One can choose to come and volunteer for either a week or a month, and they can also do research. So that is how tourism contributes to running the sanctuary. The money you got from the tourists definitely goes to the day-to-day operation of the sanctuary. Thank you.
So if I may ask a follow-up question, do all the sanctuaries have the benefit of tourism facilities? And if they don't, are they then completely dependent on donations or support? Do governments?
Some sanctuaries in Africa, unlike ours is 100% non-government. So we depend normally on grants, donation, and tourism. And the other sanctuaries, there are some sanctuaries which are government owned, not in Uganda, but elsewhere in Africa. And those who are not, they still have a little aspect of tourism. And in sanctuaries, we do much of soliciting for funds to make sure that the animals we are taking care of are okay. So it is either tourism, donation, grants, or government support.
All right, yeah, the hard work of earning money for the sanctuaries so the work can continue. That's part of the job. Yeah,
it's part of the job.
Jean, in terms of if somebody would like to join the network, how long does the process typically take?
We have two sanctuaries right now that we are in conversations with, and that will probably be maybe a year-long process, depending on how much they conform to the standards that we have set, is one piece of it. And then there's a site visit that also needs to be conducted as part of the accreditation process. So also getting that scheduled. Obviously during the pandemic, that was quite impossible. Now that things are loosening up a bit, we're hopeful that we can get the accreditors to those sites and hopefully expand our network that way. We're not necessarily looking to become a gigantic network per se, but obviously there's a need for sanctuaries that focus on this. We know, there are so many hotspots across the continent where animals are disappearing, and that a sanctuary could do a lot of good. So we're really trying to be strategic and where we think they would add the most value right now.
Okay, I see Holly Magog has got her hand raised. Holly, please go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you've ever seen chimpanzees in the wild eating bats. When we talk about chimpanzee health and, this transfer of diseases, chimps, bats, humans. I mean, have you ever seen a chimp eat a bat?
Dorothy, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I can try to answer. Holly, are you talking about bats, B-A-T?
Yes, correct. B-A-T, flying around at
I'll give an example of Ngamba Island. We have very many bats, but we've not seen any chimp eat a bat. But what they do is rather play with them. Of course, they capture it. Once it is dead, they'll play along. Yeah, but I've not seen any eat it.
They actually capture the bat, and they do this at night or from the roost in the day?
They do it during the day. Actually, anything that is foreign in the forest, they try to capture either their mangroves. They try to get them and play around. They don't eat other animals. They don't.
Even the big monitor lizards, because I've actually been to Ngamba Island, and there's the biggest monitor lizards I've ever seen in my life there.
Yeah, they don't eat them.
Fatsuma, please go ahead and ask your question.
Sorry, I was just thinking, thank you, Huga. I was just thinking, is there any incidents of zoonotic diseases between the people and the chimpanzees in the island or with the sanctuary staff? Dorothy.
Thank you. Yes. Just like how I said, we have 98.7% of the DNA shared with the chimpanzees. They do suffer from more or less the same diseases that we get. And as a prevention measure at the sanctuary, what we do in case there is a flu outbreak, any staff having flu, they have to go to the sanctuary. They come back when they are cured, because it's better to medicate one staff compared to trying to heal flu in the 52 chimpanzees. And all of us who work at the sanctuary are vaccinated against a couple of diseases, hepatitis A, B, meningitis, yellow fever, and we regularly test for TB. And in the recent outbreak of COVID, every month we go through the screening, but depending on the frequency of cases arising, there are times whereby we do the screening after 5 days. And just like the chimps undergo annual health checks, it is mandatory for every staff of ours to go through the annual health checks. that helps us to see whether you're fit to work or you're not fit to work. So that is how we are able to prevent diseases between staff and the chimpanzees, because if you're not vaccinated, you can get hep from the chimps, because we do clean their facilities. You'll find there are days whereby they need to be medicated, or in the worst case scenario, there is being bitten by a chimp, which doesn't always happen, but we try as much as possible to overcome those by having vaccinations and all that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Holly.
Hold on, it just went away out of my head. Yes, so chimpanzees, being intelligent creatures, and you say you have this monthly health check. Can you tell us about the behavior of the chimpanzees when they know the health check has started? Do they accept it willingly, or do they clap their hands and bare their teeth and tell you to get lost? Nicely, of course.
Interesting. During that time, we have incidences. There are those who will know that now the health checks have started, and they decide to nest in the forest, and they don't want to come back. And then there are those who are much resistant to going through the health checks. But the good thing is before they are taken, they are darted. There are those who are easy to take in, and there are those who take a lot of time running around, and the vets have to try a couple of times sedating them. So there are individuals who are okay with that, and there are those who try to dodge, but every year we make sure that everyone has gone through the annual checks.
Okay, which actually leads me to another question, because I know with a lot of animals or wildlife that is very, I'm not sure of the word to use, but they're very aware of male and female. And do you find that female vets work better than males, or how do you decide what gender of vet is treating the chimps in these health checks? Because I know I've had incidences in the field where a female is preferred, actually.
During the health checks, of course, the females are forthcoming compared to the males, but there are also those other individuals who are really hard. So what happens when we are setting the individuals to go through the health checks in a certain day, we get those who relate together, so that we don't want to retain, let's say, Nani, and Nani is a friend to Rambo. We leave Rambo to go to the forest. If the day is for Nani, we make sure that all other chimps, they have a relationship, so that we minimize on the fights within the group during the time of the checks. So they are grouped according to the relationship they have with each other.
Thank you very much.
That's very interesting. So you are managing the activities of the chimps according to their social structure.
Yes, that is what is done. Because we have caregivers who every day do the monitoring of the chimps, and they understand the different dynamics within the different individuals. So they help us in doing that.
And do the relationship with the caregivers also start to play into that?
Yes, it does. Like at the sanctuary, we have those chimps who have a strong bond with certain caregivers, and if it is told to do something, they will listen. And then there are those who will not listen to a certain set. I'll give an example. When I was still a caregiver, I got challenges with some males, like Sunday. For him, he couldn't allow me to feed him. So what he would do, he would stand in a corner, and when you're trying to pass, and then he tries to pull to pull you. So those incidences happen, and the staff are grouped in that way that you're allowed to interact with the chimps whom you're comfortable with. Along the way, they get used to everyone, but yes, they have those different personalities and preferences.
So
Just
how
like
how do you deal with staff holidays then? If the caregiver wants to go on leave, how does the chimp allow that?
our staff work on a schedule. We work 10 days and get 5 days off. And of course, if you're to go on leave, there are other staff around. So they're on the schedule and they are aligned accordingly. It is by law, everyone needs to get leave. So we do that.
Do the chimps accept the law?
They do.
They have to.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I mean, that's perhaps not a problem that is as much part of the daily routine of, you know, sanctuaries for other animals as it is with primates, where the social structures really play a role. In terms of your financial support, are there any way that people can contribute? I think Marita's placed a link in the chat already.
Yeah, I think she did put the link in there. So
okay, and for people who will later see it on YouTube, there would be a link on your YouTube channel, or
yes.
Sorry, on your website.
Yes, and I could share.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sure. We will also, for those watching this on YouTube, we will place it in the notes of the video.
Okay. Let me just get the YouTube handle. And they can as well follow us on Facebook. You just put in at Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary, Twitter and Instagram.
Caroline, may I ask, you mentioned that you are studying at the moment and that you are doing your PhD. Where are you from and which university are you joining us from?
Hi. Yes, so I'm originally from Germany and I'm doing my studies in the United Kingdom at Oxford Brookes University. So I'm about to finish now and then hoping to go into the field.
Are you hoping to work in a specific sanctuary or African country?
So I've been studying governance systems for animal sanctuaries and how they can be improved. So I'm at the moment thinking about just seeing where there could be a cooperation or how the situation can be improved for animal sanctuaries.
Are you already linked to PASA at the moment?
I've actually had interviewed Greg Tully.
Okay.
That was my first round of expert interviews. So yeah, I've spoken to him.
Okay. Because it sounds like your skills could be very useful for them and like you might be able to collaborate.
Yeah. Yes, Jean, maybe I can email you later on so we could get in contact.
Yes, please. We'd love to hear from you. And I'll put my email here in the chat so that anyone who would like to be in touch can contact me. And if my role at the organization is communications, but we have other functions and people who might be more relevant, but the governance piece is really a fascinating one. So I know we'd love to learn more about the work you're doing.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Just once again, Jean, thank you for your assistance with putting this whole series together. And Dorothy, thank you very much for a fantastic look into your world. It's wonderful to understand your work a bit better. Those who are in the audience and that will be watching it on YouTube, to have a sense of what the work that sanctuaries do, and maybe there's a career for people there studying nature conservation at the moment that they haven't considered yet. And that's perhaps a question. A typical sanctuary worker, do you start out as a volunteer? Do you start out studying zoology? How do you approach this? I know, Dorothy, that you started from the tourism side. So do you do in-house training? How can people get involved if somebody's there, they're 5 years old, they know that they want to do this for the rest of their life? What should they do? What subjects should they take at school? How do they approach this?
It's different with the different sanctuaries. It depends. Like for me, my path was different. I did tourism management and also added on marketing. It depends on the passion, because we believe working for wildlife, first thing, you need to be passionate about the wildlife. But we have different opportunities in wildlife. Let's say if you're to be a veterinarian, of course, you need to be a veterinary doctor and you need to take that path. And for the caregivers, really, we don't look so much into complicated courses. One, it's passion. Two, you can read, write, speak English. And of course, you need to have at least a certificate, from different background. But it is passion that rules in all sanctuaries. Yeah. Like for sanctuary work, it is passion, except the specialized positions, let's say reservations. Of course, you need to have a certain background, marketing and what have you. But if we look at the sanctuary caregiving, not so much.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so if you've done tourism, you're able to work in the sanctuary. If you've done veterinary, you can still do. If you've done communication, you can still work at the sanctuary. If you've done IT, you can still work at the sanctuary.
Dorothy and Jean, thank you once again. We really appreciate your time session.